Eh? No bastard tomatoes! Criminal! I'm going back to demand my tomatoes. Hey up! Hope you're well. Now then, look what I'm on. Woohoo! Alright, it's not a woohoo bike, it's an old man's bike. So if that were your first thoughts, bollocks to you. Yes, you find me today aboard my newly acquired 2019 BMW R1250 RT LE. And my faithful 2009 BMW R1200 GS Adventure has gone in part exchange for this beauty. And when I got this bike, just turned 9,000 miles. So that's just nothing on these highly regarded BMW Boxer twin engines, which have an awful lot of legacy. This, of course, the latest incarnation with the shift cam technology, which is a form of variable valve timing. Not that you notice when it kicks in, so it's very, very progressive. So you're thinking, right, you bell end, why have you got rid of GS and why have you gone for an old man's touring bike? Well, because I'm an old man. Next month I turn 60. Yeah, third week in July I am 60. God, that sounds depressing. So why not have an old man's bike? Well, I'm not normally one to pander to stereotypes, and the same's often said of many other bikes. In fact, if you think about it, given the current UK motorcycling demographic, bit of a mouthful that, but given that, every bike's an old man's bike on account of every biker seems to be an old man. Of course, that's a little bit of hyperbole, but you know what I mean. I think the average age of the UK biker, I bet it's over 50. So people of my generation will be found riding any and all bikes, from hyper tourers, sports tourers, full dress tourers, adventure bikes, sports bikes, cruisers, super nakeds, you name it. So all bikes are old men's bikes if older men, and women of course, are riding them. So that's that load of old bollocks put to bed. So I've got this and I'm delighted with it. Okay, so it comes in a colour which is known as Planet Blue, which is so dark in all but the brightest sunlight everybody thinks it's black. Well, it ain't, it's blue. And what a fantastic colour it is, I love it. It's the LE spec, so it comes with like the chrome exhaust and one or two other bits and bats. Fully electronic suspension, and what you would expect of the top spec. Of course, there's a boatload of extras you can get on top of the LE spec as well. But this one feature that I think I didn't like, and I was going to scroll through the menus and disable, but I'm glad I didn't, is the hill hold control. And ever since that piece of technology became available in bikes, I've always been really, really sceptical as to whether or not it would be of any interest to me. Sort of thinking I have no problem keeping my foot on the brake on an uphill gradient or a downhill gradient. But actually it makes an awful lot of sense. And if you do, as soon as you set off, it releases it. So you know, you can just take hands and feet off the bike. If you've got a long way on an uphill gradient somewhere with traffic lights, say, I can absolutely see the relevance of that little bit of technology. So I'm quite happy with that. It's obviously got riding modes, the ones that you would expect: rain, road and dynamic. I think I'm going to keep this on dynamic. The performance for a full dressed tourer weighing in at, what are these, about 280 odd kilograms, thick end of 300 anyway. The performance is blistering, more than enough. So I'm not into numbers really, you know, but I think suffice to say, brake horse on this is 135 at I think 8 or 8,500 RPM, and I think the torque's something like 146 Newton meters, but don't hold me to that. I'm not really into number crunching, it's about how the bike feels and handles. And for a physically big, physically heavy, touring orientated motorcycle, those figures are pretty impressive. And when you say 135 brake horsepower, you know, I sort of take myself back to a long time ago when I was a traffic cop. I had 30 years in the police, but I had two and a half very enjoyable years as a PC in traffic, before I sort of hit the promotional ladder and did other things, which on reflection wasn't the best idea, but anyway. So I had 2.5 really enjoyable years on road traffic, working out of Toller Lane Police Station in Bradford, right in the middle of Manningham, and a troubled area if ever there was one. As soon as you went out in traffic car, by the time you got about half a mile away from the nick, you know, you'd find something. And I don't mean Mr. Decent doing 15 mile an hour over the speed limit. I mean proper, like, you know, drink drivers and disqualified drivers and active criminals using vehicles, stealing vehicles, taking them without the owner's consent. Back then using them for a lot of ram raids, if you remember the era of the ram raid and the era of joyriding. Where did that go to? But any road up, yeah, 135 brake horsepower. Well, my divisional traffic car back then, in fact most divisional traffic cars, were Vauxhall Cavalier SRI 130s. And they were the fastest police cars on division. Motorway, a little bit different motorway. They were 24 valve Vauxhall Senators, fantastic cars, and 4 Granada 2.9s, some of them Cosworths. Cosworth one were good, but the standard 2.9 were just a pile of shit basically. But the 24 valve Senator were fantastic. But anyway, I digress. The fastest thing at division was, at that time, I'm talking 1993, Cavalier SRI 130. 130 brake horsepower. And this is 135. And that was a car. So in relative terms, 135 brake horsepower for a motorcycle is a lot of power. A lot of very usable power and a lot of very usable torque in the mid-range. So what a fabulous machine. And this came with, it's got the BMW spotlights, which is great for even greater road presence, and also crucially crash bars front and rear. And I think I've told you before, I had a K1600 GTLE a few years ago, and I dropped that before I put the front and rear crash bars on. It cost me £2,500 in damage, dropping it from stationary. So then I put Wunderlich crash bars on, like this has got on here, front and rear, and a few months later I dropped it again and want a mark on the bike anywhere, not even on the bloody bars. So, they're a must. Not come with the BMW top box, bloody £1,000 worth or more, but has got the proper bike specific Jivy plate fitted. Unfortunately I have the Jivy 58 litre top box that was on the GS. So I can fit that. Looks a little bit out of place on a bike like this, but it's functional. The ride quality on BMW touring bikes and the adventure bikes, I have to say, is superb. I mean, it's a tired old cliche, but magic carpet ride is about right. You may recall I had a few months ago a 2009 Honda Goldwing GL 1800 and I thought that were a smooth and comfortable bike, but this is an order of magnitude over and above that. But of course it's 10 years newer. It's packed with technology that was unheard of back in 2009. And no, I didn't opt for going for the brand new 2021 onwards model R1250 RT with the radar in and all that nonsense. I dare say I could have walked into Alan Jeffries at Bailden and signed up to some PCP agreement and ridden off in one of them. Well, that's not what I do. If I have a bike, I like to own it, and if that means I have to get a 3-year-old bike rather than a brand new bike, then so be it, because possession is 9/10 of the law.